What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Fire Sports Takes podcast. We have a conference finals matchup. We have two matchups. And I got to tell you what, guys. Go back and listen to my my second round preview. I got two series right down to the game. I said Cavs in 7. I said Thunder in 4. Bang and bang. 50%. That's pretty solid. Down to the game, too. Now, did I say Sixers in 7? Potentially. Did I say T-Wolves in 7? Potentially. I fell for the Anthony Edwards aura trap. Happens every year. Man, what is it? What is it that Big John says? Not proud of it, man, enough to say it. The Anthony Edwards edit's got me. Sue me. But I have a loaded episode for you guys today. And I got to tell you what, chat. We did miss one day last week. We did miss one day. And we took a long look in the mirror. We self-evaluated. We looked internally. Not going to happen again. I have this calendar here. For those of you watching on the YouTube. And it's got plans and plans and plans. I've got so many plans. I just ripped it in half by accident. There's so much going on all the way up until football season. And I'm fired up to do it. I'm feeling rejuvenated. I'm feeling ready to go. We have a lot to get into today, starting off with some Dynasty rookie rankings. We won't start off with that, but that will be later in today's episode. We're going to recap some of the Western Conference, or the Game 7 between Detroit and Cleveland, which I did get correctly. I don't know if I mentioned that. I did say Cleveland in 7. Bang. Donovan Mitchell, dog. He was the best player in this game, but if it wasn't for Max Strus's performance in Game 5, the Cavs don't win this series. If it wasn't for Sam Merrill tonight, the Cavs, they probably still win this game. But either way, the Cavs role players stepped up in a major way in this series for Donovan Mitchell in a way that Cade Cunningham's role players simply didn't. Jalen Duren had more games with less than 10 points in the playoffs than he did in the regular season. There was 80 plus games in the regular season. He didn't even play 15 games in the playoffs. Put that in perspective for a second. Jalen Duren averaged 19 and 10 in the regular season on 65% from the field, was averaging 10 and 8 in the playoffs on 51% from the field. Tobias Harris was the second leading scorer for the Detroit Pistons in these playoffs. Cade Cunningham had no help. He led the playoffs, currently leads the playoffs in points. He leads the playoffs in three-pointers made. He leads the playoffs in assists. And his second leading scorer was Tobias Harris, and he was one game short of the conference finals. Now, I understand he did not have a good Game 7. He was like minus 32 in the plus-minus, had a really cold shooting night, and he had turnover problems throughout the duration of these playoffs, but the man had no help. And Ausar Thompson, as good as he is defensively, and there was that controversial call in Game 5, or no call rather, he can't shoot the ball offensively. He was airballing threes in a Game 7, and Cleveland was leaving him wide open, therefore stuffing the paint with guys like Evan Mobley, guys like Jared Allen, a defensive player of the year, and one of the best rim protectors in the sport. There's no driving lanes, and the Pistons didn't have the perimeter shooting. It's a miracle they made it this far in the series with the lack of perimeter shooting on the outside. Now, they got a couple of good performances from Duncan Robinson, and you're going to need those if you're Detroit. But the reality is, Jalen Duren shit down his leg the entire playoffs. Cade Cunningham carried, and then Tobias Harris, honestly, had a really good playoff run until the end of the Cavs series. But they need help. And I don't think they should neglect Jalen Duren. I think they still should extend him. 22 years old. He's gotten better in every single season he's played. And in his first long playoff run, he wasn't great. That's objective truth. But he's only 22 years old. So at the end of his Supermax, he would be 27 years old, middle of his prime. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but he's only gotten better. Lock Ausar Thompson in the gym, bring in some shooters for this Detroit Pistons team this offseason. They were missing Malik Beasley. They were missing Hardaway. And Duncan Robinson was really inconsistent and really streaky beyond the arc. When he was on, they were unstoppable, but when he was off, the three-point shooting had to get made up for somewhere, and it couldn't just be Cade. So I think the Pistons are going to be fine. Donovan Mitchell, unbelievable couple of games in these series. Obviously, had the record-tying second half in Game 4. He was terrific again in Game 7 after a lackluster Game 6. He is a dog, but unfortunately, I don't know if it's enough against the Knicks, and we'll get into the Knicks. And as far as the Spurs are concerned, if Victor Wembanyama doesn't throw a wild elbow haymaker at Naz Reid, they probably gentlemen sweep them. And there has been the conversation of, do the Spurs have enough experience? And we've seen them not have lack that experience. Like Wemby was not good in game 4 or in game 4. He was not good or in game 4 when he elbowed Naz Reid. Obviously, that shows a little bit of an experience. He wasn't good in game 1 in this series as well. So we've seen it, and the Spurs have still been able to prevail. So I like San Antonio a whole lot. And let's just get into it. Let's get into the conference finals preview. I have the Knicks in 6, and I have the San Antonio Spurs in 7 games. And that is because I like their guard play with Stephon Castle, De'Aaron Fox is a little bit banged up, and Dylan Harper, who's playing at a really, really high level in these playoffs. It's uncanny what Dylan Harper has been able to do as a rookie so far in these playoffs against Cason Wallace, Lou Dort, Alex Caruso. I think they're too athletic. I think they're too athletic in San Antonio for these guys in Oklahoma City's backcourt. And then Wemby and Chet. Chet Holmgren's averaging 10 points per game against the San Antonio Spurs in the regular season. Chet Holmgren was huge for them in the Lakers series because they were blitzing SGA nonstop. SGA was Chet was picking up the slack from an offensive standpoint. He's averaging 18 points per game in the playoffs, 17 points per game in the regular season, but he only averaged 10 points per game against San Antonio in the regular season when Wemby was on him. He's their second best scorer. They're also getting back Jalen Williams, and that is huge because he is a whole load off of Chet and SGA's shoulders from a scoring standpoint. But Jalen Williams, when he's on the floor with SGA, the Thunder have a plus 12 net rating. But when it's just SGA and no Jalen Williams on the floor, the Thunder are plus 20 in net rating. The Thunder have a winning percentage of 796 without Jalen Williams and a 758 winning percentage with Jalen Williams. And you know the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, the Thunder have won 8 straight in these playoffs. Adding Jalen Williams back into the mix when maybe he doesn't have as much continuity with guys like AJ Mitchell, who's also been terrific, could that maybe throw a wrench in some of the gears that make this Thunder machine go? I think it might. Although I could be wrong, and J-Dub could come out here and drop 35. SGA has 30, and the Thunder dominate the Spurs in game 1. But I think it's something worth noting that there is an 8-point difference in the Thunder net rating when it's SGA and J-Dub on the court and when it's SGA without J-Dub on the court in favor of just SGA on the court. I think that's worth noting. And then Chet Holmgren averaging 10 points per game against the Spurs in the regular season when he's a 17-point per game scorer can't go without mentioning either. I think the Spurs are a terrific matchup for this Thunder team. I think they have the athleticism with their guards, with Harper, with Castle, with Fox, where it's going to be hard for these Oklahoma City Thunder defenders that have been dominant, one of the best perimeter defenses in the NBA, to stay in front of these guys. And then they have the perimeter shooting where it can be drive, kick, or Wemby just dominating. And Wemby, when he's on, is the most unstoppable player in this series. Make no mistake about it. So I do like Minnesota, or I do like not Minnesota. I like Minnesota. I like Anthony. But I do like the Spurs in this series. And Stephon Castle has cooked the Thunder at times this season. He averaged 20 points per game in the regular season against Oklahoma City. He was a 17-point per game scorer. So that's 3 more points per game against the Thunder than it was against a lot of other competition. De'Aaron Fox had a couple big games. He had a 20 burger. He had almost had a 30 burger. Devin Vassell's had some big games. Like the guards for this San Antonio Spurs team have had plenty of success against one of the best perimeter defenses in the NBA. Not to mention, they've held the Thunder to 110 or less in 4 of the 5 times they've matched up against each other. So I think the Spurs defense might be better than the Thunder defense, although that's not what the net rating will tell you. I think Dylan Harper was not a non-factor, really, the first few times these two met back in December, especially when they saw each other 3 times in 2 weeks. Dylan Harper today is a different Dylan Harper than he was in December. A whole 4 months of extra basketball at the NBA level can do a lot for a young rookie's confidence, and he's playing at an extremely, extremely high level. And again, it all boils down, really, Wemby versus Chet, and Wemby has gotten the better of Chet. And I think, although the Thunder are really deep as well, but I think the Spurs bench is of a higher quality than the Thunder's is. They have the 6 men of the year. Julian Champagnie has been a dog. Dylan Harper off the bench would probably be the best player off the bench for Oklahoma City. I mean, I guess AJ Mitchell has been terrific as well. So there's a little bit of a debate to be had there. And you have Jared McCain, you have Cason Wallace, you have Aaron. Like they have Isaiah Harkins. Like they are deep in their own right. But I think both teams are really deep. I think the Spurs match up really well with the Thunder. There's a reason they're 4-1 against them in the regular season, it's because they have been the better team. SGA said it himself. SGA's words, not mine. Give me the Spurs in 7. Keep in mind, I do have a future on Victor Wembanyama to win NBA Finals MVP. Okay, so I do have a horse in the race. As far as the Eastern Conference Finals, the Cavs are 1-2 versus the Knicks in the regular season, but those 2 losses came before the James Harden trade. And since the Cavs traded for James Harden, they have a top 5 record in the NBA. I do think the Knicks win this series in 6 games. I think the Cavs wing defenders are not good enough to hang with the Knicks, with OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. If OG Anunoby, who is day-to-day right now, if he plays in this series, I think Dean Wade, Max Strus, who's a firecracker defensively, I don't think those guys have the athletic ability or the size to match up well with these Knicks wing defenders. Not to mention, I think Donovan Mitchell is going to have to outplay Jalen Brunson and some for the Cavs to even have a chance. And I don't see him doing that. With all due respect, Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson is as good of a playoff riser, if not a better playoff riser, than Spida, even though Spida has been terrific. So that's going to be a key matchup to watch because it can't just be Donovan Mitchell outplaying Jalen Brunson. It needs to be him outplaying him and some. How does Dean Wade, how do Max Strus, how does like Evan Mobley, how do those guys match up? And I understand Mobley defensive player of the year. How do those guys match up against OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges? Can they slow those guys down offensively? Because we know what those 2 guys can do defensively. And I heard somebody refer to OG and Mikal Bridges as Wingstop. That is one of the greatest nicknames I've ever heard for a duo of wings in NBA history. Wingstop? That's just nasty work. So I do like the Knicks in this series. Brunson's the best player in the series. The Knicks have a better starting 5. I think the depth, I would lean Cleveland, even though like Jalen Tyson has really been a non-factor, but Merrill, Strus, Schroeder. But again, the Knicks do have some depth as well with Mitchell Robinson, Deuce McBride. Like they have guys. Like I don't know. I think the Knicks are getting a little bit overrated, or maybe not overrated. The Cavs are getting a little bit underrated, but I do like the Knicks in this series. Give me the New York Knicks in 6 games, then in the NBA Finals. I mean, it's whatever the Spurs or Thunder, whoever comes out of that. And I do think that series goes 7 games. It's whoever wins the Western Conference by however many games they want it to be. That's what's going to happen in the NBA Finals. I don't think the Knicks or the Cavs would have a chance against the Spurs and the Thunder. The NBA Finals is starting on Monday night. It's just called the Western Conference Finals. So that's how I'd boil down these last 4. And I'm really excited for Thunder Spurs. Obviously, I think the whole world is. But the Spurs, man, they are a wagon. I think they've shown their youth. They've shown their inexperience, and it still hasn't really come back to bite them in the ass. And I think it's just provided more of a learning experience for them that they can bring in to this series. Like, yes, they don't have experience, but they're gaining it the deeper they get into the playoffs. And they haven't really been punched in the mouth a whole lot yet. So we'll see how they can handle some adversity. Like if they fall down 2-0, which is a complete possibility, how do they respond? But we did see them fall back 1-0 against Minnesota and then come out in game 2 and just run them out of the court. And then it looked like it was going to be pure dominance. And then Wemby elbowed Naz Reid. And then they got game 4, back-to-back, belt to ass. And that was that. So I think the Spurs are a wagon. I think their backcourt is terrific. They're getting better by the day. I like the Spurs to upset the Thunder in this series. Give me the Spurs in 7 games. Hit that thumbs up button. Hit that subscribe button. We do have some other stuff to talk about. Connor McGregor back against Max Holloway. We'll get the UFC boys on at some point. I mean, those guys are clowns. They texted me today. The Mac is back. We have to do a podcast right now. I'm like, all right, let's do one tonight. He said, I can't. Then why would you even say that in the first place? You absolute moron. But it is what it is. We will talk about it at some point. We will address it at some point. I'll tell you what. I opened TikTok today, and it felt like Instagram in 2016 with the amount of Connor McGregor edits that were just flooding my TikTok algorithm. I'm here for it. I mean, I'm all here for it. I think McGregor is the greatest superstar in all of sports in the 2010s. I don't think anybody really revolutionized their sport more than Connor McGregor, brought eyeballs to the UFC than maybe Steph Curry did to the game of basketball. But even then, I think that's up for debate. McGregor is the most impactful, influential athlete of the 2010s, and he's back. And I don't know if he has a chance, but I'll tell you what, If he wins, he's going to be doing the public a huge favor because everybody and their mom is going to be betting on Connor McGregor. And I don't know what the odds are. I'm sure he's an underdog. Max Holloway is a dog. It's a rematch. And McGregor got him in 2013, whenever the last time they fought. But he hasn't been in the octagon in a while. He's definitely been not necessarily taking care of his body. I'd be lying if I said anything we've seen about Connor McGregor over the past half decade has been good news, but I'm happy he's back fighting, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun. And he is unequivocally one of the most influential athletes of my lifetime and of this last generation. So I'm fired up that McGregor's back in the octagon. I will be betting on him because I feel like when I was like in my team, I didn't bet when McGregor was like when it would have been really fun to bet on him. And I feel like I have an opportunity to do that now. I'd be stupid not to seize it. I'd be stupid not to take it. We're going to talk some football. And chat, I'll tell you what, man, I like the NBA is cool. It just doesn't hit the same. It doesn't hit the same not only as college basketball, because those college guys, like they're playing every second like it's their last because it quite literally is. These NBA guys get $50 million fully guaranteed contracts when they're 25 years old. They stop giving a fuck, which is fair. I mean, you got your bag, whatever. But the college guys, they just care way more. It's more fun to watch, even though obviously the skill level is not the same. I like it better. I don't know what to tell you. I like the volatility better. But I will tell you what, this Spurs Thunder series I'm very excited for. It doesn't hit the same as NFL. And I'll tell you what, I had way more fun preparing for this episode, going through these dynasty foot fantasy, like just talking dynasty football, like the internal dialogue talking fantasy football. Like we are so back, kind of. Like I look at my schedule here. I look at my schedule and it's just top 10 running backs, top 10 linebackers, top 10 safeties. Fantasy Friday, Fantasy Friday, Fantasy Friday, Fantasy Friday, and I'm fired up. I mean, we do have Fantasy Fridays starting, and I have a Fantasy Friday plan, Fantasy Football Friday. I have a Fantasy Friday plan for every single Friday up until August. And I guess we should talk about the schedule reveal. The schedule has been revealed. Who gives a flying fuck? The Jets, you're going to play who's on your schedule. The good teams are going to win. The bad teams are going to lose. The schedule does not matter. Anytime, anywhere. That's my philosophy. The Jets are not going to win a whole lot of games this year. It's nice having a schedule you can go through and like tally W's and L's. Like you can pick games. That's fun. Planning. Like it's always fun. You'll see like nobody plan a wedding for this weekend. I'm excited for those tweets to come out. And the slates look good, but then again, like the Christmas slate looked electric. Like this time last year for like 2025 NFL season, we get to the Christmas slate and it's 3 dubs, right? So the NFL season is so unpredictable that you can look at the slate of games from like when it drops in May and like, okay, I'm excited for this weekend. I'm excited for this Thanksgiving slate. I'm excited for this. I'm excited for that. And in reality, it could all just blow up in your face by week fucking 5 and you don't know what to be excited for. Just be excited for football. How about that? Way too many international games. And I understand what they're doing, trying to grow the game, whatever. Way too many international games. They did this with the NBA. They grew the game, and now all of a sudden, the greatest player I've ever seen in my own 2 eyes is French. That's who we want representing American football. Like, think about it. I think about it. I'm just saying. It's good for the league. It's good for money. It's why we can keep increasing the salary cap is because it makes so much money. And if you get, and the players deserve to be paid. Like, I would argue NFL players deserve to be paid more than NBA players, and the NBA players have fully guaranteed contracts because one, they put their body on the line way more. Their careers aren't as long, and they're just not pussies. Like NBA NBA players are just soft, and I don't think a lot of NFL players are. So expanding the game is good because it probably means higher salary caps, which means higher wages, higher annual salaries for the players that actually play the game. And the NFL is a way better way better it's a way better product than the NBA is. So I do think the players who are responsible for that product deserve to be paid the same amount and probably more than the NBA players do. And the way we do that is by expanding overseas. But fuck, I don't want to wake up at 9 o'clock every single Sunday. I don't want to do that. I do not want to do that. And here we are. And I haven't looked at the schedule completely, but I feel like it's a million gazillion international games. I do like that for the first week, they're moving the game to Wednesday. Then we have a Thursday game. Then we have a Friday game. Then college football Saturday. Then NFL Sunday. Then Monday Night Football. That's fucking electric. That is electric. That I cannot wait for that. That's going to be one of the greatest 5 days of my entire life. And I'll tell you, like, football season is a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, which I don't mind. Like I miss going live during football season. I started going live too late. Like that's when the channel's really growing. That's when the most eyeballs are on the channel because that's what I know the most about. But I can't sleep Saturday nights. I can't sleep on the night before Sundays, and I'm not looking forward to that. Like last football season, there was literally a time I could not sleep Saturday night. I stayed up the entire day. I just simply didn't. I drove to the beach to go for a walk because I didn't know what to do with myself because I was so excited for NFL football. Do you understand how psychotic that is? And I'm not looking forward to having my sleep schedule get that fucked up, but I'll tell you what. And just insult to injury that they're throwing a million European. Either way, let's get into this. Here are the let's rank the first round rookies for Dynasty Fantasy Football. And this is a super flex tight end premium, but obviously if you're not in a tight end premium league, I will edit my rankings accordingly as we go through it. I have a couple of honorable mentions. These guys are going to go outside of the first round, but these are some of the guys I will be targeting in the early second, mid second, maybe even early third with one of these guys, and that's Emmett Johnson. And the reason Emmett Johnson is going to plummet so far is because he's not going to get an RB1 workload unless K9 gets injured, and K9's been pretty durable, I feel like, throughout his career. But this is just pure talent. Emmett Johnson was my RB3 coming out of this draft class, ahead of Jonah Coleman, ahead of Mike Washington, ahead of Nick Singleton, ahead of Katron Allen. He is a dog. He was productive at Nebraska for back-to-back seasons. He had a stretch of games this year. It was like they were just leaning on him. After Dylan Raiola went out, they were just leaning on him, and he was producing. He went off against Iowa, who was one of the better defenses in the country last year. He went off against Penn State, who had a few NFL guys on their defense last year. He is just a dog, an absolute bowling ball. And I do think there will be a little bit of a committee workload here, and he's way more explosive than Isaiah Pacheco or Kareem Hunt. Their offensive line in Kansas City, when it's healthy, is pretty solid. It's just Pacheco and Kareem Hunt were garbage. They could not. They both averaged less than 4 yards a carry last year, and the lack of a run game made their offense predictable, which led to Patrick Mahomes having a down year. But really, it was just Travis Kelce dropped a bunch of passes and it turned into interceptions. That's really like Texans game, Eagles game, Chargers game, drop passes. That's all it was. I think this offense is still going to be highly prolific for years to come. And you want to get running backs that are on good offenses. And you're going to get that in Emmett Johnson. And I think he's going to be efficient with his touches. He's impossible to tackle in the open field. He's a thumper. He can run through. He can go around you. He lacks, like, the reason his ceiling is capped is because he lacks home run hitting speed. And he's a more than formidable pass catcher, but he's not going to be an elite pass catching weapon. Although I don't know if K9's not necessarily an efficient pass catcher either. So we'll see what type of role Emmett Johnson carves out in this offense. But when he gets the ball in his hands, he's impossible to bring down. I think he could be a calm 4.5, 5 yards a carry, but I don't think you're going to get much upside out of him year one right away. But I love Emmett Johnson. And Chris Braswell is a guy I would take maybe even late first, really early second. I prefer him to Denzel Boston, but in a lot of dynasty rookie drafts, Boston is going almost like a half round ahead of Chris Braswell. I think he's a more fluid route runner. He's bigger. He doesn't have as good of hands as Denzel Boston. Obviously, Boston had like a 1% drop rate in college, but his catch radius is just as big, and he does have really good hands. He can make some spectacular catches in his own right, but he's faster in a straight line. He's faster laterally, and you think like Denzel Boston, really nice red zone receiver. He had a gazillion touchdowns, but a lot of it was like rub routes and schemed open quick slants. Like, he's not like a fade jump ball guy in the red zone the way the numbers will tell you. Now, he can do that. I'm not saying he can't do that, but it's a lot of schemed open stuff on Denzel Boston's tape, which is fair. And he doesn't give you a whole lot after the catch. He did return punts, but it wasn't like an elite yak guy. I prefer Braswell to Boston, even though Boston's going to go above Braswell. So I think you could see he's a good honorable mention, like the mid second, late second. But number 12, I have Jonah Coleman. He should go in the first round. Great pass catching upside, but is in a pretty loaded RB room now in Denver. But I think he can carve out an RB1 workload because J.K. Dobbins, unfortunately, is made of glass. But when he is on the field, he is electric. We saw it in L.A. We saw it in a limited stint last year with Denver before the injury. Then RJ Harvey was productive from a fantasy perspective, but wasn't really efficient from a pure offensive standpoint. So I think Jonah Coleman, who has great pass catching upside, is a bowling ball. I mean, tacklers just roll off and was extremely productive. 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons, 1,100 yards as a sophomore in the Pac-12 with Arizona. He is incredibly, incredibly productive in college. He has the potential in the passing game to be a 15-touch guy, a 20-touch guy, and he has carried that workload for 3 straight seasons at the collegiate level. So Jonah Coleman's a guy I like a lot. It's just RJ Harvey, J.K. Dobbins, and him. Where does he fit in into that mesh. Like, I don't know if we'll see a lot of year one production, but maybe halfway through the year, he can carve out a workload if he's really efficient with his touches, which I think he will be. Over RJ Harvey, who wasn't that efficient, and J.K. Dobbins. I mean, I'm not going to say he's going to get injured, but he probably will get injured. So I have Jonah Coleman at 12. At 11, give me Omar Cooper Jr., and this is for Superflex. I want that on the record, and not or for tight end premium, excuse me, not tight end premium. Here's what I'll do. 11, I have Omar Cooper. 10, I have Stowers. 9, I have Kenyon Sadiq. If this is not tight end premium, I have Omar Cooper Jr. at 9, Sadiq at 10, Stowers at 11. So in tight end premium, take Sadiq and Stowers over Omar Cooper Jr. If it's normal PPR scoring for your tight ends, take Cooper Jr. over those two guys. Elite route runner, man. I mean, I am a Jets, if you can tell by so I am bullish on Omar Cooper Jr. for sure. But all of a sudden, and this goes with Kenyon Sadiq too. All of a sudden, there's a lot of mouths to feed in this Jets patch. Garrett Wilson's going to get his targets. He's going to get his targets. Kenyon Sadiq's going to get his targets. Omar Cooper Jr. is going to get his targets. Breece Hall is going to get his targets out of the backfield. He's been one of the most productive pass catching running backs in the NFL. And does Geno have the ability to produce, for a plethora of guys for a fantasy football perspective in an offense that, quite frankly, we don't know what it's going to be with Frank Reich. Now, I think he has enough to produce for at least two guys, because that's what he did, and a little bit of a stint in 2024 with JSN and DK in Seattle. Both those guys had top 25 wide receiver finishes, but is Omar Cooper Jr. number one as good as DK is right away? Probably not. I think Garrett will be fine. I think Garrett's going to have one of the best years of his career because Geno Smith's the second best quarterback. But then where does that leave you with Kenyon Sadiq and Omar Cooper Jr. this year? I think Omar could find himself at like a flex low-end receiver too, if all things go accordingly. The Jets are going to be losing a lot of games, so Geno Smith's going to be passing the ball a lot. I think the offensive line in New York is better than a lot of people are giving it credit for. But in the reality of the situation is you got to take the tight ends that are ridiculous athletes with elite upside in tight end premium over a guy in Omar Cooper Jr., who's going to be the wide receiver too on a team that, quite frankly, sucks. Like the Jets suck. I'm a Jet, they suck. And how is the target share going to work out between him, Garrett, Sadiq? We're not done with Mason Taylor. I don't think the Jets are just done with Mason Taylor. There's a lot of 13 personnel going on in the league right now. And Mason Taylor and Kenyon Sadiq. And Sadiq's basically a glorified slot receiver. So tight end premium, I have Cooper Jr. at 11, Eli Stowers at 10, Kenyon Sadiq at 9. And I want to flip Stowers and Sadiq. I really do, but I don't have the balls to do it because I do think the path to productivity is going to be a little bit harder for Stowers right away than it is for Kenyon Sadiq. But I like Eli. Eli Stowers is my tight end one over Sadiq. In his first, in Eli Stowers was a better tight end prospect than Kenyon Sadiq. With all due respect to Sadiq's RAS score, which was the highest in combine history, that it's a relative athletic score, Eli Stowers in his first year at the position was more productive than Kenyon Sadiq was at any year of his career at the tight end position. And even though Sadiq had a 9.58 RAS score, which was the highest ever, set combine records, Eli Stowers had an RAS score of 9.45. Broke the record for broad jump, broke the record for vertical jump, ran a 4.51, which was in the 98th percentile of all tight ends in the 40-yard dash. So Eli Stowers is just as much of not just as much, but almost as much of a freak as Kenyon Sadiq is, and he was more productive in his first year at the position than Kenyon Sadiq was ever. And Sadiq, where was he? Where was he? Against Texas Tech, even though they beat Texas Tech. Where was he against Indiana? Eli Stowers was more productive. I think he has better hands. I think he's a better route runner. He has a better feel for the soft spots in the zone, in zone coverage. He has better feel for leverage with DBs. And although Sadiq is going to be a matchup nightmare with linebackers and safeties because of his size and speed, and even some corners because he's faster than some corners, he broke the combine record. I think Stowers is a more polished prospect right now. However, Sadiq's path to production is way faster than Stowers is. So here's what I would take Sadiq first and then sell him high this year and then go buy Eli Stowers low. If he has a couple of mid games, see what the snap share is with Stowers compared to Dallas Goedert, and Goedert is only on a 1-year deal. So I don't know if Stowers will have an impact right away, but Goddard's going to be done in a year, and somebody's going to have to pick up that slack in Philadelphia, and I think it's going to be Eli Stowers, and I trust Howie Roseman to pick good players. Like I do. But I have Sadiq over not. Sadiq's ceiling is just so much higher. And then at number 8 and number 7, and honestly, you could argue 6. Like there's a little bit of a debate here between Casey Concepcion, Jadarian Price, and Mekhi Lemon. The way I have it ranked is Lemon at 6, Concepcion at 7, Jadarian Price at 8. And I feel like I could be underrating Price a little bit, especially because there's not a lot of competition in his backfield. But I think it's so close between these three. Receivers are more valuable in Dynasty than running backs are because their careers last longer. So I went with the receivers over the RB, who I don't know what his passing game upside is. It could be there. He very well could be a good pass catcher. It's just Jeremiah Love was better. But there's not a lot of competition in his backfield. Zach Charbonnet off of a ACL injury. And Jeremy Price is a dog. I mean, he's 6 yards a carry back-to-back years. He ran high 4.4, low 4.5, so home run hitting ability is a little bit questionable. He hit the home run a lot at Notre Dame. Great vision, great jukes. He's a dog. He's a whole package, and he's in a spot where there's not a lot of competition for carries. I think he is little bit of a question mark in terms of ceiling because we don't know what he can do as a pass catching guy. But I like Jadarian Price at 8, and then Casey Concepcion at 7. I think he got sold a Biletnikoff by Marcel Reed. Quite frankly, he was getting open. And Reed would airmail, Reed would underthrow. He'd have to come back and make a play on the ball where if it hit him in stride, he's taking it to the house because he's one of the best yak guys in the country. He returned 30. He had 30 punt returns in his college career. He took 2 of them back to the house. He was nasty returning punts. He's nasty after the catch. And if you've listened to this, I've talked about it before, but he has one of the grossest reps I've seen against Mansour Delane in this draft process, where he juked him out of his shoes to get open. He caught the ball, then he made him touch grass again. Mansour Delane went 7 overall to the Chiefs. He's the best corner in the draft. Concepcion is a dog, 15 yards a catch on 919 yards. But he wasn't the only receiver in that room. Like, it was a loaded room with Mario Craver and Bethel Roman. Wide receivers last longer than RBs do. I love Concepcion a lot as a player. I think he'll fit right into that Zay Flowers role in the Todd Monken offense, but even better after the catch than Zay Flowers is. I like Casey Concepcion a whole lot. Very high on him. Take him 7 over Jadarian Price and over the tight ends in tight end premium. And then number 6 is just Makai Lemon. I mean, the most productive season out of like the top 3 wide receiver prospects between Tyson, Tate, and him. He's the most productive, but he struggled to break the press coverage against Leonard Moore, who's an outside corner, but came into play the slot when he was on Makai Lemon, and he struggled to break the press. This new offensive coordinator in Philly comes from Green Bay, and they do scheme their guys a lot of free releases, so that's going to be huge for Makai, so I do like that for his stock in terms of a dynasty standpoint, but if he can get a free release off the line of scrimmage, the rest is cake, because that's the only weakness in his game, and who's to say he can't develop better release packages off the line of scrimmage? He has the twitchiness. He's a good athlete. He's good in open space. He has great feel for leverage. He can find the soft spots. He gets eyes back to the quarterback to be a QB friendly move, chain your possession guy, but he also has the ability to be a contested catch guy down the field for his size. He has incredible ball skills, and he's nasty after the catch. Makai Lemon's a dog, and the fact that Howie Roseman took him, traded up to take him, tells you everything you need to know about how these NFL GMs felt about Makai Lemon, and that is Howie Roseman thought he's good. Like I said regarding Eli Stowers, I trust guys that Howie Roseman drafts. It's just there's way more question marks with him than there is with Tyson. Maybe not with Tyson because of the injuries, but I love Jordan Tyson. We'll get to him momentarily. But Jalen Hurts, there's a question mark there with Jalen Hurts a little bit. Remains to be seen. I also do think that the Eagles' our offensive line has regressed way more than a lot of people want to admit. Dickerson was banged up all last year. Cam Jurgens is not very good. Lane Johnson is getting older. And they did draft a tackle to probably be Lane Johnson's replacement, but their O-line regressed significantly last year, and it does not get talked about enough. Jalen Hurts got sacked more than he ever got sacked in his entire career. Saquon Barkley was way less efficient running the football. Their run game was not as dominant as it was the year they won the Super Bowl. A lot of that has to do with their offensive line, which was banged up for a good portion of the year, but it is worth noting. But I have Makai Lemon at 6. Number 5, I have Ty Simpson, and this is super flex. So this is like you get 2 QBs. I think Ty Simpson's arm talent's a little bit underrated. I think it's Zach Wilson-esque where he put the ball in harm's way a lot. It just wouldn't get turned over because it's not NFL DBs, where if it was NFL DBs, those interception numbers would be high. The TD interception ratio would not be as good as it was with some of the throws Ty Simpson would make. He thinks he has the arm of Brett Favre or Josh Allen when really he's closer to Tua Tagovailoa, but he's not Tua Tagovailoa. He has really good accuracy, really good arm angles. The arm strength is a little bit left to be desired. I think he's a Zach Wilson comp coming out, but a little worse arm, a little better competition, and the situation Ty Simpson is in is really what's selling me here at number 5 in a super flex 2 QB type of league where Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay sit for a year, learn, You know the offense is going to be good as long as he can be accurate with the football, and that's enough for me. I think he's underrated mobility. The size is like he's not big, but I think Ty Simpson at 5 years simply because of the situation he's going into. You could argue this is the greatest situation a player has ever been drafted into. You could really make that argument. Puka Nacua, one of the best receivers in the NFL. Devontae Adams, although he won't be there next year, and then one of the best O-lines in the league, Sean McVay, sit behind the MVP and learn for a year. I think it's perfect for Simpson, so I like that a lot. And then at number 4, Fernando Mendoza. In a super flex league, there is some debate, Tyson, Tate, Mendoza. And here's my thought process on Mendoza. It depends on how your team is constructed. If you desperately need a quarterback and you're picking in the top 3, your team is probably buns to begin with. And I'd rather you're not going to, if you're picking the top 3, the odds of you turning this thing around in 1 year are very slim to none. So I would rather, if you have a first round pick next year, take a guy like Tate or Tyson, who I think is a sure thing going to be a starting wide receiver 1 or 2 in your roster for the next 8 years, barring some type of injury or some type of unforeseen circumstance. That's how strongly I feel on those 2 guys. Take those guys, lock that position in. You're going to be bad next year if you're picking in the top 4. Like, quite frankly, you're not going to be that great next year. I'd rather take a swing on one of the QB 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 next year than the wide receiver 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 next year. Because after Jeremiah Smith, you don't know who the next guy is. Cam Coleman, Mario Craver, Ryan Williams resurgence, Ryan Wingo. Like, you don't know. But next year, it's like Arch, Sayin, Levitt, Marcel Reed, Dante Moore. Like, there's so many quarterbacks next year. And Mendoza's upside is limited. Like, I think his ceiling, if he can work on his pocket presence, which is the biggest weakness of his game, is Joe Burrow. Like, I think he can be a pocket presence, pocket passing, assassin, like Jared Goff type of guy who is very productive in fantasy, but that rushing upside is limited. He's in not the greatest situation. Like, that offensive line is better, still needs work. He has good weapons in Brock and Ashton Genty, but on the outside, it's Trey Tucker, Jalen Naylor. Like, they still are pieces away. Their defense still isn't that good, albeit it's way better. I'm not that high on Mendoza from a fantasy standpoint, especially when you look at the QB class next year compared to the wide receiver class next year, which is going to be a good receiver class. It's just, are you going to get a guy like Tyson or Tate after Jeremiah Smith's off the board next year? And Jeremiah Smith will probably be the 101. I don't know if you will, but I do know you can get a tighter Tyson this year and then get the QB 2, 3, or 4. Like, the year I'm in Dynasty League, Jaden Daniels and Drake May went like 5 and 6 that year. Like, Neighbors went, Bowers went, and Marvin Harrison Jr. went, all before Drake May or Jaden Daniels did. And this next year's quarterback class is looking like, at least right now, it could very well be very similar to that 2024 QB class. So for those reasons, I would take Tate or Tyson over those guys. And it's really just Jordan Tyson or Carnell Tate's the really, like, that's the debate, right? I lean Tyson. I think Tyson is the most talented receiver in the past 2 drafts. So not just this year, but last year. Yards after catch, ball skills, route running. He's got everything. He's everything. He had body control when the ball is in the air. Big playability. He had a game-tying touchdown against TCU. He had the huge pass interference against number 7 ranked Texas Tech when Arizona State beat Texas Tech last year in conference play. He was nasty. He's a big-time player. He had 1,100 yards his sophomore year as well. 10 for 105 against Texas Tech. 8 for 126 and 2 tutties against TCU. Big game player. The only concern is he missed 1 out of every 3 college games. Like, that is very concerning. But I also do think the Saints offense is going to be better right now than the Titans offense is. The Titans offensive line is still a work in progress. The Saints offensive line looks solid. Kelvin Banks, Cesar Ruiz, Felice Fuaga. They signed the guard from Buffalo as well. Their offensive line is going to be solid. Olave, they got another weapon in ETN in their backfield, and then you bring in Jordan Tyson, who I think could outproduce Chris Olave as soon as next year. I take Tyson at 2. I take Tate at 3. Tate is probably the safer option, but have some balls, and take the ceiling play in Tyson. And then number 1 is easily Jeremiah Love. I think Jeremiah Love at 20 years old might be one of the greatest running back prospects we've seen because of the lack of tread on the tires. Like, you think of some of these other elite guys, Ashton Genty, Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, where Jeremiah Love compares in terms of tread on tires is nowhere near these other guys. Like, Genty had 830 touches. Jeremiah Love had 496 touches his college career. Saquon had 773 touches. CMC had 731 touches. Bijan had 600 touches. Fournette had 657. Even going back to Ezekiel Elliott, Melvin Gordon, all over 600 touches. Jeremiah Love had less than 500 touches. He could run through your face. He could run around you. He could beat you to the edge. He could jump over you. He can do it all. He can be a good goal line presence. He had 20 touchdowns. He had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, 9.5 yards a catch, almost 7 yards a carry. He might be one of the best dynasty running back prospects we have seen ever. I mean, ever. 20 years old. 20 years old. Not a lot of tread on the tires. Best football ahead of him. I love Jeremiah Love. And I do think the Cardinals are also in a position where if they get a quarterback, their offense is going to be rolling. Marvin Harrison Jr., Michael Wilson was incredible down the stretch. Trey McBride, one of the best pass-catching tight ends in the sport. Now you have Jeremiah Love. That's one of the best groups of weapons in the NFL, especially if Marvin Harrison Jr. can take just a little bit more of a step and be that elite prospect we thought he could be. So, and you want running backs on good teams and good offenses because that means touchdowns, and Jeremiah Love is a dog if they can get the right quarterback in there in Arizona. Look out. And I think they will because next year, the 2027 class is loaded. They're going to get a guy. And if they get the guy and the offense is good, Jeremiah Love's going to be a 15 touchdown, 1,500 scrimmage yard guy for 4 or 5 straight seasons with the least amount of tread on his tires than like almost every single top 10 running back over the past 10 years. So Jeremiah Love, number one. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button for fantasy football stuff all year long. I love you guys, man. If you made this far, hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button. We're back. We're ready to go. Football talk is going to get underway. We got a lot of football stuff going on. We got some NBA for now. Once the NBA is over, it's just football, football, football. I love you guys, man. I'll talk to you on the next episode of the Fire Sports Takes podcast.